I was busy listening to Jake Jr. cry, and I didn't hear what happened after he was born, or, when he was pulled out of me. But Jake was aware of what was going on, and he later told me what happened. So when the doctor pulled Jake Jr. out, the assistant who was helping him cut his umbilical cord immediately. And the doctor looked and saw that she had done that, and he said, "What have you done?" They wanted to hold off on the cord clamping, and then the husband was going to cut the cord. And he was like very angry, and he told her to get back. He was like, "Get back, don't touch anything." I'm glad that I didn't hear that going on. So I had to get myself together, and while I was doing that, Jake Jr. needed to go down for a nap. So now he is napping, so I can pick back up where I left off. And I was talking about how they cut his cord, which, if you looked into it, if you haven't, then you need to go look into it. But if you've already looked into it, then you know that delaying the cord clamping and cutting is really important, like for lifelong immune system and health. It's so important. And it's kind of like, aside from the way the baby's born, that cord clamping part, it's like the kickoff. It's like the start of their life and their health, and that was the first whammy. So anyways, he was okay. He was born with a great set of lungs. I got to put him on me immediately, even though I really didn't like that they were so worried about wiping him clean and everything. And that's just not necessary. But I didn't get to say, "Hey, no, leave him with the stuff on him. I just want to have him on me," But anyways, so after the surgery, I was closed up. Everything went fine with my surgery, and then I got to go into the room and have skin to skin and nurse him, and all of that went just fine. So, there wasn't any major complications that happened during the C-section. So that I'm very fortunate for. I know that, it doesn't go that way for everyone. That being said, was it a couple of days, like when I went home the next day, I think, I started having nausea every morning, and I was throwing up. Every single morning for the first 6 weeks. Every day I was throwing up. I was sick. I was so sick. I had no appetite. I mean, my body was just freaking out from that surgery, So I wish that I could say that it was awesome those first days. And it was awesome that I had a nice, healthy baby. Aside from jaundice, he did have jaundice really bad. Not to the point that he needed to be in a NICU or any kind of intervention, but he was yellow, and it was a lot to do with, I feel like, he didn't get those nutrients and blood cells and necessary proteins and enzymes and antibodies and everything from the umbilical cord, It makes me so aggravated that they can be so careless, Like, how do you have your assistant prematurely, how do you not communicate what we're doing here? I just don't understand. I just don't understand. But, anyways, he did have jaundice, and quite bad. I don't feel like it got better until like 2 or 3 weeks after he was born. And I want to say it was almost, yeah, it was like 10, 12 days post-op. I was running a fever. I mean, my body was just like, we can't handle this. I was so sick and run down, and I had a fever. I think it was like 104. So we go to the hospital, and basically, they did blood work, and I think they did a CT scan. They did a bunch of stuff to try and figure out what was wrong with me. My heart rate was like 150. My blood pressure was high. Just my body was just freaking out, and they couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. They couldn't find a source of infection, even though my white blood cell count was pretty high. And they kept saying, you're fine on paper. And I want to be like, what paper are you looking at? Because 150 heart rate when I'm laying down, I've been laying down for hours at this point. And my temperature is high, my blood pressure is high, my white blood cell count is high. What paperwork are you looking at? Because I was not fine on paper. But they just kept saying that as if to say to me, you're fine, there's no good reason for you to be here, but we're going to keep you because it's kind of worrisome. They kept me for 3 days. And I was just so out of sorts. I was just so, like, in a fog. I couldn't think, I didn't know what was happening to me. And they were pumping me with antibiotics, IV antibiotics, and it was ridiculous. And nobody could agree on anything, as in the doctors, and I wasn't seeing one doctor, and I don't know, it was just so weird. It was like they just stuck me in a room and said, give her antibiotics, let's just see what happens. But anyways, they were treating me for an infection, and then they decided maybe you have a clot in your pelvis, so they were giving me injections in my stomach, which hurt so bad. All the while, all this time, I am pumping every couple of hours and sending that milk to where my baby is. My baby is with my in-laws at this point, and all that mattered to me was that my child had my breast milk. All I cared about was that I continued breastfeeding. I was so determined. I was like, if you people ruined the cord clamping part, you're not going to keep me from breastfeeding my baby. And I'm so glad I stuck with that. It was hard, and I didn't have really anyone on my side. Everybody was like, well, just give him formula. And I'm like, no, you won't. You won't give him formula. I don't care what I have to do to get this milk to you. Don't give him anything other than breast milk. Finally, I did have a doctor that was like, we believe that you're having complications from your surgery, and it's okay for you to have your baby here. You need to be breastfeeding. That's what's going to help you heal the quickest. And I can barely see that doctor's face. I had never met them before, but he said what I feel like the other doctors didn't want to admit. They didn't want to admit that my body was reacting negatively to the surgery that I just had. And he said it in black and white. And then the third day, I had been laying on one side, and I ended up getting mastitis that last day at the hospital. And I was taking a shower, and I had a fever again, and I felt sick again, but it was a different sick. It was a different sick from what I had been feeling. And I look in the mirror, and I've got this new rash on my breast, which, everybody had already checked for mastitis. I didn't have mastitis going in. I got mastitis that last day from laying on my side for so many hours that I got a clogged duct. So anyways, So then I had mastitis, and they're like, well, now we have to put you on antibiotics again, which I'm glad that I know now the things that I know, but anyways, I was pumped full of antibiotics. I'm pretty sure in my medical record, they put that I had mastitis the whole time. Instead of, because they don't want to have that number in their statistics. They didn't want me to be a complication from surgery. They didn't want me to be an infection from surgery. They didn't want me to be anything that makes them look responsible or, makes the surgery look responsible. So that also really doesn't sit well with me. Like, people have infections or whatever from surgeries. They have bad reactions from surgeries. It doesn't necessarily mean you did anything wrong. But the fact that they didn't even want to tell me that, much less put it in my medical record, like, just the whole thing. I have lost so much respect for the medical field. From the beginning of my pregnancy through the C-section, I just feel like it's a joke. And I don't mean to offend anyone who is in the medical field, who is in, OB or L&D or whatever. Like, I'm sure that there's great OBs, and I'm sure that there are great hospitals that deliver babies, in a perfect way. I'm sure of it. But that's not the experience that I had. I never, aside from maybe one visit with one of my OBs, who ended up giving me false hope anyway. I asked her, what are the chances that my baby will turn? And she said, it's not going to happen. It's so unlikely. Don't even worry about it. Instead of discussing with me the possibilities and, okay, if that happens, here's the options that you have that you can go ahead and think about and research. Like, they just said, not a problem. So even that, I can't even give credit to one of the doctors because she gave me false hope and didn't prepare me, So that's my experience, and I'm sorry that it was negative. I feel like the whole video was negative, but you know what? It's real. Find the birth plan I wanted to show you, but I had it all typed up. I want to say it was probably almost 2 pages, or it was 1 page front and back. And, like I've said, I was really excited about following the birth plan that I had researched and I had, come up with, and it was a disappointment. After a few weeks after the surgery is when it hit me. And I cried. I grieved for about a week. Because it's like I have a baby, but I didn't give birth. Like, there's that part of you that like, while you're pregnant, you are like, this is gonna make me a woman, a mother. Like, this is what I'm supposed to do as a woman. I'm supposed to give birth, and everything that entails. And, while you'll see things that do say you had a C-section, but you still gave birth. You had a C-section, but you're still just as much of a woman. Yeah, that's all true, but you don't feel that sense of accomplishment. You don't feel that sense of power. Like, I had a baby. I still don't know what that's like. I have a baby, but I don't know what it's like to give birth to a baby. And it took me a while to accept that and just be like, oh, well, that doesn't matter. In the end, it doesn't matter as much as, you can't put too much weight on that, I'm a mother, and I gave birth in my own way, and I know that, and I'm okay with that, and I accept that, and I'm still proud of that, I was wide awake and got cut open. I got cut open, wide awake and aware. And, that in itself carries some form of power and pride. and everything, but you know, I still wish that I had gotten to push him out. I wish that I had gotten to give birth. I do, and I am jealous every time, you know, one of my friends or someone that I'm close to has a baby and they get to have it. You know, I say get to, I'm sure they would not be so happy to talk about that pain, but you know, I'm still jealous, and I will probably be jealous until, if and when the day comes that I get to have, you know, to have a baby the normal, natural way. But you know, it is not. It's not what I wanted. But sometimes you don't get what you want. So, for anyone who has a birth plan and C-section is not an option, it could be. And you need to do yourself a favor and make it a plan B. In the event that something happens, prepare yourself so that it's not such a devastation. It was a devastation for me. And I wish that I had prepared for it. And so the advice that I would give to anyone out there who thinks that they're going to go along with their plan and nothing's going to happen, prepare for it. The last thing you want is to be devastated over how. So that is my experience, and again, I'm sorry that it's negative, and I don't want to come off like I'm complaining, because I do have a healthy baby. I don't feel like he was damaged from the C-section. Do I think I was damaged? Yeah, I do. But in the end, it's our babies that we put first. It's our babies that matter more than us. And so for that, I'm just grateful that he's okay. And yeah, that's what I wanted to say. I wanted to make this video. I wanted to share my experience. I wanted to get it off my chest, and I wanted to be able to talk about it, like I said, without feeling guilty. I'll still feel guilty. Now that I've said it all, I still feel a little guilty for complaining. But at the same time, I'm going to put it out there because I feel like I wish that I had watched a video like this